Okay, so you're here because you want to really get under the surface of things, right? Find those connections, those insights, but, without getting totally swamped.
Exactly. Cut through the noise.
Precisely. And that's what we're doing now. We're taking a deep dive into this really compelling piece. It's called Wohlig, The Quiet Comfort of Finnish Words by Jaime Hoerricks.
Yeah, it's a very thoughtful exploration. It touches on exile, survival, truth-telling.
And these quiet victories, the ones that kind of leave marks for people coming later, it specifically looks at Leo Herrera's post, too.
Right. Through this lens of let's say, a different kind of hero's journey, the queer hero's journey. And what's interesting, I think, right off the bat, is how Hoerricks takes this concept. We all sort of know the hero's journey.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
It is. And reframes it through this different lived reality.
Yeah.
It makes you stop and think, well, does that old structure really fit everyone's story?
Absolutely. Because the classic one, leaving home, facing trials, coming back a winner, welcome home.
The triumphant return.
But what if that return? What if the welcome isn't guaranteed? Or even possible? That's really the core of what we're digging into here. The mission, if you like, for this deep dive is to understand that other journey. The one that might click if you've ever felt a bit like an outsider or, experienced some kind of exile.
And it's such a powerful perspective to consider. Hoerricks brings it up early, saying that for a lot of people, queer individuals, immigrants, artists, folks on the margins, the past just doesn't look like that classic arc.
Right. The home they left might have changed, or they've changed so much.
Exactly. Or the welcome just isn't there. And this reframing, seeing the queer experience as an immigrant experience, that offers a really potent lens, I think.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that.
Yeah.
Because Hoerricks puts forward this idea, the queer experience fundamentally can be seen as an immigrant experience.
It's quite a statement.
It is. Think about it. Leaving behind maybe a birthplace, family, culture, it reframes coming out, doesn't it? Not just revealing something, but almost like crossing an invisible border. What connections jump out there?
Well, it highlights the potential for profound loss, I think. That choosing to be authentic might mean stepping away from everything familiar, facing rejection.
Yeah.
And Herrera's quote that Hoerricks uses, at its heart, the queer experience is an immigrant experience. We leave behind our birthplace, family, culture. It just lands with this real weight, but also tenderness.
Okay, so let's really contrast them. The traditional hero's journey we know versus this other one. Hoerricks calls it quieter, lonelier, and far more radical. A journey through exile, then survival, truth-telling, and finally, creation. It's less about the big external fights, maybe.
Yeah, it seems more internal, more ongoing, less about a single destination, perhaps. Understanding this specific kind of exile really sets the stage for everything else. Survival looks different here.
How so?
Well, the traditional journey often ends with things back in balance, right? The hero returns, order is restored.
Stability.
Yes. But for the people Hoerricks and Herrera are discussing, that original home might be gone or inaccessible. So the victory isn't necessarily return, it's the ongoing act of existence itself, survival, being seen, being heard.
Let's dig into exile then. Hoerricks says home is ideally, safety, where you first belong.
Supposedly.
Right. But for anyone marked as other, home can shift. It can become a place you have to negotiate, maybe even dangerous.
And it's often not this big dramatic exit, is it? Hoerricks talks about it being slow, subtle.
Like glances, tone of voice.
Whispered warnings, yeah. That creeping feeling that being fully yourself isn't approved of.
Yeah.
Even if no one says it outright.
And it's not just physically leaving, it's also becoming unintelligible, as Hoerricks puts it.
Oof, yeah.
That feeling of disconnection for people who are supposed to get you, that's a powerful kind of exile, too.
Definitely. And Herrera's quote again about being refugees in your own country. It speaks to that feeling of living outside the main structures, maybe facing economic hurdles, navigating systems not built for you.
Treated like a political football sometimes.
Exactly. Your basic rights feeling fragile, even though you're part of the fabric of society. It shows how shaky that belonging can feel.
And connecting that to just the sheer courage it takes to step out when there are no guarantees, building a life anyway, it really lands. Which brings us to survival. Survival in the borderlands, Hoerricks calls them.
Yeah, those in-between spaces, where full acceptance, full citizenship always feels just slightly out of reach.
And survival there isn't passive, is it? It's described as an active craft. You have to learn it.
Totally. You develop new equanimies, languages, tactics. Hoerricks calls them. It's that constant calculation.
What can I show? What do I hide? Assessing risk just to be yourself.
And Herrera's words here are so sharp.
Mhm.
about illegal only applying to people.
Never illegal pizza, illegal ramen.
Right. It exposes that hypocrisy, doesn't it?
Right.
Valuing the labor but dehumanizing the person.
And Hoerricks draws this parallel to today. The attacks on trans people, criminalizing names, genders, turning authenticity itself into something potentially punishable. The borderlands aren't just places anymore. They can be on your own body, your identity.
That's a really potent point. And in that light, just surviving is a victory, a huge one.
It's refusing the narrative that says you're wrong or fraudulent.
It's that quiet insistence, we are real, we are here. No law, no label can erase that truth.
That's powerful.
Which leads right into truth-telling. Language as a battlefield, Hoerricks calls it.
Yeah, where recognition or erasure happens.
Herrera puts it starkly. Language is life and death, how we're talked about, what messages get through.
It's fundamental. When you weaponize words, illegal, deviant, fraudulent, it has real-world impact. It justifies harm.
And Hoerricks brings in this very personal angle as a Gestalt language processor, for whom language isn't just translation, it's like embodying a whole different emotional world.
Yeah.
It really shows language is more than just swapping words, doesn't it?
Yeah. The example of Wohlig, that German word for comfort, ease, belonging.
Compared to just nützlich, useful.
Right. It shows that reclaiming your language names, pronouns, how you express things isn't just preference, it's existence. It's being true to yourself.
Absolutely. Speaking your truth, even when it's hard, is the affirmation. It's refusing to be defined by hostile terms, using your own name, your own words that reinforces your reality.
And then comes the next stage, after survival, expression.
The crucial second act.
Hoerricks suggests it's not enough just to get through exile. You need to shape those experiences into something.
Turn pain into memory, memory into meaning, into legacy.
Expression becomes a monument against disappearance.
I like that phrase. And Herrera's point about artists finishing their work, comparing unfinished art to a tumor.
Wow. Yeah.
It stresses how necessary it is. Not about perfection, but about getting it out. Externalizing it before it eats you up, kind of.
Hoerricks talks about needing to write to externalize these gestalts, these whole experiences, and finding that Wohlig feeling afterward.
That internal comfort, yeah. Belonging within yourself, it's making your own sense of the journey, creating your own record when the main stories ignore you.
It's so true. Expression isn't some optional extra. It's how you make meaning, especially when the world doesn't reflect your reality back at you.
Telling your story, whatever form it takes, as, I was here, this mattered.
So, wrapping up, it becomes clear the real win isn't always that triumphant return home.
Right. For many, that home is gone, or never really was home in that way.
The real victory is creating something new, something lasting, something for those who come next.
Herrera's quote nails it. Our impact is undeniable because our ancestors learned the real victory is a better life for those who come after us.
And that Hoerricks found such resonance in Herrera's work despite different backgrounds.
Yeah, it shows that connection is possible, powerful, across those divides.
This reaching across time and experience, sharing these truths, that feels heroic in itself.
It really does.
Right.
And it's that very network of connection that reactionary forces seem so threatened by, trying to erase these voices.
So every act of truthful creation, every story shared, it becomes defiance, doesn't it?
Building bridges, leaving markers, like constellations, Hoerricks says, for others finding their way.
Yeah.
This queer hero's journey, it's not linear. It's circular, communal, unfinished.
Exiles becoming artists, becoming ancestors.
Exactly. It's this continuous building of a world where these truths are remembered deeply.
So just to recap this deep dive, we've looked at how that standard hero's journey maybe doesn't fit everyone, especially queer folks, others on the margins.
We talked about exile, how complex that is. And survival is this active skill in the borderlands.
The power of truth-telling, language as resistance.
And expression, finally, as vital for making meaning and leaving a legacy.
And listening to all this, what parts of this other hero's journey really struck a chord with you? Maybe moments where you felt that sense of exile or found power in your own language.
Yeah, it's worth reflecting on.
And a final thought to maybe chew on. What about the unfinished work in your own life? You know, stories, ideas, things waiting to be expressed. How might finishing them not just bring you that Wohlig feeling, but also maybe act as a marker for someone else down the line?
Or even just thinking about those small acts of truth-telling we see or do, How do they add up? How do they build that bigger picture of resistance and memory?
Lots to think about. If this sparks something, definitely check out Leo Herrera's post or more from Jaime Hoerricks.
For sure. Well, thank you for taking this deep dive with us today.